deepest condolences to Dr. Eastick's family, friends, and all who knew him. I think we can all agree that a great legend has passed, and I think an acknowledgement from Council is the right thing to be doing. Any further discussion on this particular recommendation? And also just acknowledging that the funeral is this Thursday. The Town of Gawler is also holding a service remotely as well in the James Martin Room here in the Civic Centre for those that can't make the Taylor and Forgie, who all are welcome. So on that note, I might put that motion, if there's no further discussion, I'm going to put that motion all in favour. That is carried unanimously. Thank you, members. Thank you. So just moving through the agenda, we've got public open forum. And we don't have anyone that is nominated for the public open forum tonight. And moving forward to the deputations, I actually received a phone call from Mr. Ian Tooley just before the meeting, and he has had something come up, so he's had to be an apology for his deputation tonight. So moving forward, adjourned items we have nil, petitions we have nil, and I'm just looking for an elected member for confirmation of the minutes from the council meeting held on the 25th of November. You're happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes? Looking for a seconder, Councillor Hennessy. Any discussion on those minutes? There be none. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Business arising from minutes is nil. We move on to our decision reports. So we have item 9.1 on page 6, the budget parameters and timetables. Any questions or anything before I look for a mover? You'd like to say some words there, Mr. CEO? Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to point out a change that I'm recommending to Council from last year, and it's a change to our public consultation. I'm actually proposing to Council that we actually hold a separate meeting for the community to come for us to present the budget to them and receive feedback rather than a previous practice, which was to have an hour session as part of a council meeting. I think it gives us a greater opportunity to actually talk to the community in person if they wish to come along. So that's just the change that I just want the council to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Any questions, or you've got a question? Yep. Councillor Davies?
So in terms of that change, is there any, in terms of the legal requirements or whatever around, like, because that 1 hour was like a designated thing, just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, so I think that's going above the bare minimum, but Mr. CEO?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Act actually provides, you can provide the 1 hour mechanism, or you can provide a public meeting. So this actually complies with the requirements of the Act. And to take the Mayor's thoughts, I actually think it does go above and beyond that 1 hour provision mechanism.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Davies? Happy with that? You got a question, Councillor Hennessy? Yep.
Yes, just a comment to start with. I noticed that in terms of the expenditure control, we are continuing to have targeted service reviews, which I note with pleasure. The question in terms of the targeted amount of 800 and something thousand, hang on, just while I find it on the page.
I think it was 809.
$809,000. Yep. Which is significantly up from last year's $246,000. But it seems that we this year are adding in some roads to recovery. Is that the, and what have we done with that roads to recovery money before?
So that does make up the bulk of the 809, but Mr. CEO, if you'd be able to provide some clarity there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to give an answer and then Renee's going to tell me if I get it right or wrong. My understanding is it's a recognition of the accounting treatment that we're required to do for those grant funds. The actual underlying surplus is going to be 800 odd thousand less that 500 odd. So our real underlying surplus is going to be about that 300 odd thousand is what we're aiming for. I think, is that a fair way to summarise that, Renee and Sharon?
Absolutely, and it's no change from previous years. This is how we've always treated this road to recovery because of the accounting standards.
Thank you. I think that's clear. That we need to be absolutely transparent with that. We haven't managed to find an extra amount of money to save. What we're doing is it's normal budgeting process. So thank you for the explanation.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Is there any other further questions before I look for a mover? There be none. Looking for a mover on this. Councillor Samble, you happy to move? Would you like to speak to the motion at all? No worries. Looking for a seconder? You're happy to second, Councillor Vallelonga? Any comments? No? Any further discussion on this particular item? There being none. Councillor Samble, you happy for me to close the debate? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, members. So we'll move through to item 9.2 on page 15. Any questions on this one before I look for a mover? Pretty self-explanatory. We always appreciate the work that goes into these reports, even though sometimes we don't talk about them too much. You got a question there, Councillor?
Yeah, well, Mayor, there's actually, if you read it very careful, a line that asks for feedback from elected members on the format of the report. So I thought I'd just say I'm finding them very useful. I find that this particular format very succinct, but sufficient information, especially the visuals. I really like the visuals, so well done.
It's almost like that was a test to make sure we're reading them, Councillor Hennessy. Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Any further questions on this before I look for a mover? You've got a question, Councillor Vallelonga, or you're happy to move? Okay, so no questions. I'll take the mover. Councillor Vallelonga has moved. Would you like to say anything on this matter, Councillor Vallelonga? Looking for a seconder. Councillor Samble, any discussion? Last meeting's going to be a quick meeting on this, in this case. There be none. I'll just quickly, if I can just indulge with the council's indulgence, sorry. These monthly financial reports are actually quite handy, not only at council member level, but when we see them come through to the audit and risk as well, we actually are able to collate them together, and it does help that tracking outcome that we're all wanting. So it is handy. The thing that I always keep on picking up on is we always seem to have that favourable. It's nothing that, it is great news, but it's not something that I think we lull ourselves into a false sense of security. This is always a matter of timing and the like, and I think these reports do outline it quite well. But yes, if you don't speak the language, it is sometimes we do need to digest it a little bit, but if we didn't have them, I think we'd be worse off. So I'd like to thank the author as always. That said, are you happy for me to close that debate, Councillor Vallelonga? You are. I'll be putting that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. We're on item 9.3, page 56. Any questions on this one before we look for a mover? Sorry, Councillor Davies.
Yeah, I was just, I guess there's been a bit of discussion around this in emails and such, so I just would like to, if we're going to change anything, just understand what the...
Sorry, page 22.
What the changes are. And I guess that's just what I wanted to clarify.
No, that's a great question. I might put that over to the CEO just to give a bit of a brief outline. We've had a little bit of email traffic. It's a big piece, administrative piece, but yeah, if we can get a little bit of dialogue.
Just in terms of the report that's before you this evening, the changes are largely fairly minor and administrative, just to clarify. Certainly had a discussion with Councillor Solomon just about maybe there might be some areas that we could further fine-tune. But in speaking to Councillor Solomon, I think we're happy to perhaps workshop that up in the new year and bring the report back at a later point. But ideally, just lock in these changes so we can give clarity to the community going forward. Have I paraphrased that okay, Councillor Solomon? Yep, good. Yep. Thanks, Mr. Mr Mayor.
Does that provide your feedback? I know full transparency, I also had a conversation with our CEO just around public open forum and question systems and the like. Just to be crystal clear, we certainly encourage questions coming through from the public, and fingers crossed we can actually answer them on the night when they're presenting in deputations. I think the appetite here is making sure we tighten up a system that, in the fact that we can't, we are very crystal clear with the question asker, what the question was, and the ability to be able to present it back to that person, not only to that person, but also potentially to those in the gallery that might be thinking, oh, I wonder what the answer is to that question, you know. So providing a consistent and transparent system, I think, is very important. I think that's the intention more broadly in that particular item, but I do note some of the questions that were coming through, which is good. It means we're looking through these things, and we'd like to thank staff for the appetite to talk through those little tweaks as we cement these things in. So to that, any further questions before I look for a mover? You've got a question, Councillor Sample?
Thanks very much, Mayor Nathan. I mean, it probably hasn't a lot to do with this, because I'm just wondering, in the new year, in 2026, there needs to be something better done to get people into the gallery. I mean, we are a very progressive town going forward at the moment, and I mean, you know, you can go to an event now, like we did the other night for the street festival and that sort of stuff, and walk around and not know anybody. So, you know, the thing is, Gawler is growing so rapidly, people are coming all around the place. We have an open forum where people can come along and speak about what they want to at the meeting. Now, I don't know how we do it, but how do we get more people into the gallery to come and speak of something, suggestions, or if they've got a bit of a bitch about something, or whatever it may be? I think it's this year especially, you know, we've had one or two that come in and sort of have a yarn, and we can get to know them and all, but to me, something's not working there, and I'd like to see that we try a bit harder.
Thank you, Councillor Sample. I might have a crack at this first, Mr CEO, and hand over. I think that completely picks up the public open forum sentiment as well. It's trying to make sure that we're honest and transparent about the systems that are available. So to invite people in, the user experience also, I think, needs to be consistent throughout. And also, I think a great thing that we've been doing, certainly in the end of last term and certainly this whole term, is that digital accessibility too. Not everyone has the ability to physically come and sit on the seats that we put out, but tuning in online is certainly something that's new in Town of Gawler's history. How do we capitalise on that in the user space? I think we need to be clear with our sound and the user experience as well, and certainly something we're trying to work on. But I don't disagree. The engagement with community members in using the chamber, I think, is a great tool, and I think that's one of many tools we need to be constantly looking at improvement. I might hand over to the CEO just to provide a little bit more.
I know, it was just a very quick comment that on one level, my job's to actually answer the questions and give people answers so they don't need to come to the public open forum. So there's another way of looking at that measure, that if we're doing our job well, maybe people are getting the responses they need without having to come and prosecute the case in front of the council members. That is another way to think about it. I'm not saying it holds true all the time, but I'd certainly, from my way of thinking, if that gallery was full every council meeting and we're getting a lot of people querying and questioning and perhaps have issues, I take that personally to go, I'm not doing my job well. So my goal, in a roundabout way, is to make sure people aren't using the forum with their grievances, but I take your point that it might be nice if they've got, say, positive things to share with us. But it's a difficult one.
Just that statement alone might fill the gallery next year, who knows? No, perfect. Any other questions? If there be none, are you happy to move that way, councillor Davies? Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, look, just to, just to mention, in terms of public gallery and everything, I think we do get, it always depends on the agenda. This is obviously a very internal council agenda about our policies and our delegations and all that sort of thing. But if it's about curbs, for example, you might get a few people along in the gallery. So I think that's going pretty well. But yes, I think you'd be surprised at how many views some of the council meetings get, especially considering that if 30 people were in this chamber, we would consider it a massive attendance. But if we get 300 views on a video, it's not particularly notable, you know. And but that's just, it's a more accessible way of doing things because people are there for one item a lot of the time, and rather than sitting for 3 hours in a meeting, they can scroll forward to the bit that they need and watch that, for example. So it's more accessible in a few ways, I think. But yeah, just to the motion itself, look, I'm happy with this, with some potential tweaks down the line.
Thank you, councillor Davies. Are you happy to second Brian Sam? Councillor Sample?
Yes, I'll certainly second the motion, so I've got a few minutes to say something. I believe that one of the things that people in the community, I'm not saying that our CEO and the Mayor and everybody's not doing a great job, but how does our community know what is coming to the meeting? Unless they know, do a Cody and read what's going on Facebook and all that sort of stuff. Most of the other papers that I buy each week have what is coming up at the next council meeting. So therefore the community knows what's coming up. That would be a way to be able to have people come in and put their point of view. And the other thing, I come along quite often and sit down there where Bryce is sitting down there. Even with my hearing aids on, you can't hear a word that's being said from up here. That's what's got to be looked at, but I will second the motion.
Thank you, councillor Sample. Any further discussion on this one? There be none. Councillor Davies, are you happy for me to put that motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we're on page 56 on item 9.4. Any questions on this one? It's pretty straightforward. All right, might look for a mover. I'm going to move councillor Hennessy. You're happy to move? Would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, no, I'd just like to repeat something I've said before. I really like the way the audit and risk is developing in its role. It gives me some measure of support, I guess, in knowing that they're giving an independent look at all our finance materials and our risk materials. So I think the report is quite sensible. We're moving the date to allow some recruitment to happen, and I look forward, as it says, those two people being thanked for their service and encouraging them to reapply as part of the recruitment process.
Thank you, councillor Hennessy, and just acknowledging Natalie, great chair as well of our audit and risk. Seconder, you're happy to second councillor Davies? To speak?
Yeah, just to say, look, I'm happy to go out to a recruitment process. I think that's just the way to do things, but it's no issue with the great people who are on there at the moment. I think no, I've been on the audit committee this term, and they've both been very helpful. My only concern would be potentially continuity if, because I note that Ben Watkins, the other one who's on there, started earlier in the year but didn't actually start for like another 6 months after that or something like that, pending stuff from his employer and all this sort of thing. So hasn't actually had that long in the role. But aside from that note, which I don't know if anyone wanted to comment on, I'm happy to move the motion.
I think the chair coming to the end of the financial year does offer that continuity, and the recommendation does pick that up. And then that also has that overlap as well with the member being Ben, being the ability to be able to benefit from that overlap. CEO, did you have some additions to that?
I was just going to add another further point that even though he hadn't officially taken on the role, I know he made a distinct point of getting all the agendas, reading the material and providing his unofficial thoughts back to the chair. So he was still engaged but wasn't formally in the room.
Actually use the YouTube feed to contribute in that way as well. Councillor Hughes, I saw your hand. Did you have any comments?
No, just agreeing that this looks like a stage approach, which looks really good.
Perfect, thank you, Councillor Hughes. Any further discussion? There be none. That was Councillor Hennessy. Are you happy for me to put that motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is also carried unanimously. Thank you. We have item 9.5 on page 60. You'd like to make some comments, Mr. CEO?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just with Council's indulgence, if I could turn your eyes to the screen, just give me some feedback that I received from Councillor Hennessy through the day. I'd just like to suggest that Council consider the motion with the inclusion of amending the words around, instead of South Australia, use surrounding districts as a point, and then just adding a second point which allows me just to make any minor tweaks or changes that we think might be needed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think sensible wording there, yeah. Any questions on this recommendation? Everyone's happy with the wording and understands that change? If there's no questions, I'll look for a mover. Councillor Hennessy, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, I'm very happy with that amendment. I just wanted to say it's so rewarding to see that we are at this stage now that we're going to meld the tourism plan and the economic development strategy together. They're obviously very closely linked. The reasons we want to attract people to this town is to benefit from their visits here, as well as share lots of the things that we're very proud of the town with them. I like the fact that we've workshopped this, we've got the other stakeholders involved as well, and I look forward to the next stage, which I think will be an interesting development.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Looking for a seconder? You're happy to second, Councillor Hughes? Would you like to add anything? No? Any further discussion? There be none. Are you happy for me to close the debate, Councillor Hennessy? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Excuse me. That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Moving through. We have item 9.6, page 66. I think there was a bit of chunk to this one. It took up some pages. Any questions on this one? It seems pretty administrative, but any questions, Councillor Davies?
Yeah, just I guess a general question of whether there was anything that the CEO would want to highlight, given that it is 200 pages of miscellaneous.
I sort of remember, I was reading through the table and I'm like, wasn't that already? Wasn't that already? Wasn't that already? Are you able just to provide a little bit of a feedback for the layman in the room?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. And I might
That's
just
me.
refer it to Susie. Susie's our governance guru, just to share, Susie, if there's anything particularly that we should be aware of. Thank you.
Through the chair, in terms of the acts under the delegations under the Local Government Act and other acts, excluding the Planning Development Infrastructure Act, it really is not dissimilar to a bit of a tidy up like we had with our own code. Correcting things such as, instead of expiration was a typo in one of the acts. Updating some of the section and subsection references. There was nothing material in the large majority. In terms of the delegations under the Planning, Development and Infrastructure Act, there were some changes to delegations under that Act. Again, I didn't present those changes because they were so difficult to follow with track changes, because a lot of changing to numbering. But there was 4 sort of key areas, and Andrew may have more detail off the top of his head because planning's not my area. But there was definitely some changes to pool regulations and trees in proximity to pools. Not pool regulations, tree regulations in relation to regulated trees and their proximity to pools. There was some other changes in terms of the commission, the practice directions. There were 2 that were changed. I've summarised them in my report. I can't really provide much more detail, given that that's not my area of expertise, whether or not Andrew can in the planning area. But realistically, the majority of the changes in the 5 acts, Local Government Act, Dog and Cat Management Act, Expiation of Offences Act, there's some new delegations now that weren't previously available through the delegations that were issued, that the LGA puts out, was under the Graffiti Control Act. So I'm recommending that they be delegated, and then because some of these were, I guess, quite timely with the planning area, I thought we'll do them all now, and then I'll liaise with the relevant staff about what they may need under that Graffiti Control Act, if they do need all those delegations, if they don't need any, and we'll go from there. But that's probably the best sort of wrap up. A lot of it was very, very administrative though. Yep.
So Susie, if I made the statement that said if this gets up, our delegation is a lot more aligned with the current acts, is that a fair and reasonable statement as an administrative?
Yes, yes it is. Yep. So the way that our updates work is they're put out through the LGA, and the LGA liaise with a software company called Reliances. So basically all of our positions are put into that system, and when there's an update, I either, depending on how many changes there are and the nature, last update, I think I just presented these are the few changes and we'll incorporate them into the head delegations. Perfect. Unfortunately this time, because there were so many tiny tweaks with like just updates to section numbers and letters and things like that, it was going to be too messy to kind of try and do it that way, so it was just cleaner to pull the whole thing all together.
So this sounds like a nice neaten up for a good new baseline moving forward.
100%.
And leading into the new chamber at 2026, at least they've got a good baseline moving forward. Does that answer your question, Councillor Davies? Any other questions on this one? There be none. I'll look for a mover on this. Needing a mover on this one. Councillor Hughes, would you like to speak to it at all?
Just to say it's very thorough, and it's important to actually have all these delegations in place in the first place and go through the process each year. So happy to move it.
Perfect. Any further discussion? You'd like to second, Councillor Hennessy? Any discussion you'd like to add? Any other discussion? There be none. I'd just like to, with the Chamber's indulgence, it almost touches on the risk appetite conversation we've had more recently about how a council operates. Those delegations actually allow us to carry out the everyday business, and I'd like to thank Susie and her team for picking up the latest acts and making sure that we are taking full advantage of those delegations, but our risk appetite will make sure that each action that's taken is weighed up appropriately. So I think it's a good way forward, and I think it sets up the next chamber in 2026 from a refreshed and comfort level of making sure that the current acts are actually being enacted on appropriately. So to that, Councillor Hughes, are you happy for me to close the debate? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Okay, moving through, that actually completes all our decision reports tonight, and our last decision reports other than the confidential session for 2025. Information reports, we have nil. Recommendations from committee, we have nil. External body reports, we have item 12.1, looking for a mover. You'd like to move that way, Councillor Hennessy? Would you like to speak to it?
Yep, no, I'm happy to do that, and I'll particularly speak to the Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group. I think the minutes are concise, as they should be, But I'd just like to alert other elected members that the work that's occurring within that group is quite inspirational, really, as a mixture of community members and elected members, and some of the work that's being undertaken by the staff is looking really good. Our new reconciliation action plan is almost to the point where it can be submitted, and I think in the years that we've been doing this, I think we're just getting better and better. It puts this council in a particularly good position about reconciliation in the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Looking for a seconder. You're happy to second Councillor Vallelonga? Any further discussion? Councillor Davies?
Yeah, so just on the RAP minutes, it does mention artist Chloe, who's getting started, and she was downstairs earlier for those who got the chance to drop in, and that seemed to be a really positive experience. And also just on the Elderly Centre Advisory Committee, they did invite me down. The Pensioners Association invited me down for a little Christmas carol sing-along earlier in the month, and that was a good time. So there's some great groups there in the Elderly Centre.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any further discussion? There be none. Councillor Hennessy, are you happy for me to put that motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, members. Moving through, we have questions on notice. Neil? Questions without notice, members? That looks like Neil as well. Motions on notice. Apologies, we had a slight tech issue there with the microphones. We are now back. As I was saying, we're on item 15.1, page 270. We have a motion on notice from Councillor Lorna. Would you like to move your motion, Councillor Lorna?
Yes, I think that'd be the right thing to do. So obviously, I think it's probably about time that we really took a look and get some information out about our business innovation hub there. You know, it's a good time to probably pull the Band-Aid off so we can move forwards with it. Over the years that I've looked at it, and the Business Innovation Hub, from what's been written down, is intended to support start-up and drive innovation. Yet, I feel it's currently at risk of becoming a subsidised workspace for established businesses, drawing activity away from the town centre and undermining precinct activation. I personally don't blame the businesses for taking advantage of what we've allowed. Truthfully, in my own business, if I had access to such a facility, I would do so. And it would just make economic sense. But as a council, we must remain neutral, ensure equity and avoid creating an uneven playing field and disadvantaging those making it on their own way. Right now, this model does not align with our economic development strategy. It doesn't activate precincts, it doesn't foster new enterprise, and it sends the wrong message to investors about Gawler's role in enabling, not competing with private enterprise. The motion is just a starting point. It gives us the facts, the true costs, the pre-user metrics and the data we need to make informed decisions. By March 2026, we can interrogate this into the budget process and ensure the hub delivers what it was designed for, innovation, fairness and community benefit. So I do urge you all to get along with this motion, get some information out and make some informed decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lamont. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Davies, you're happy to second. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, look, for those of us who were on the council when this launched, this at the time was called the Innovation Hub because the idea was that it was, it was a little area where, for their first year, for example, a startup could come in and get set up and get a bit of help and then move out. And that didn't really go anywhere, and it's sort of, now it's just a place for businesses some been there 6-7 years now, I think. And so we're basically just operating a commercial precinct, not precinct, but a commercial space. And so, and maybe we do just continue with that, but I don't think we should just continue with that without looking at it and coming back for a proper decision. I think it's just sort of been sitting neither here nor there for several years now, so I'd be happy for a report to come back.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. I'd like to say a few words, Councillor Hennessy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to support this. I think after 6 years, it's absolutely time to look at a number of things. There's a couple of operations in this building that I think would do with a good review, and I think starting with the Business Innovation Hub, with no particular, personally, with no particular feeling at this moment, but I would like to see a thorough dig down so that I too, having only been a first-term councillor, totally understand the history, what the intentions were, how it's actually ended up, because ever since we've walked in, or I've walked in, it's obviously problematic, and I think it's time to, what's your term, rip the Band-Aid off and have a good look at it. So I'm happy to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Any further discussion? Councillor Solomon?
Just quickly to say, I'll also support this motion. I think in the past where I've seen examples of business innovation hubs or incubators, as it were, there's also many other partners who are part of making that space work. For example, with universities, people talking about what research commercialisation looks like, and the purpose of that is to get, research into the commercial space, and there's a very clear goal. I think when you have a catch-all approach, it doesn't necessarily work, and with a lack of those sort of wraparound services and other people who do have a stake in the success of those businesses moving out of that space, they don't necessarily yield the kinds of results you want. So I share some of Councillor Lorna's concerns about the kind of environment that we're unfortunately tending towards by having it the way it is. So, I welcome that review, and even if it's not something that council should be in the business of in the long run, then we have a look at that and really consider what's for us to do and what's for other parts of the community to do as well.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Councillor Hughes?
I think this is a good motion. It's pretty well-rounded. It's really important to do reviews, and I think this is really good. This is a space where I think we should be trying to offer more for our community as well. And I remember in the early days there were some startups that were really quick and successful and moved on really quickly as well. And there was, I think the model has changed and matured, but it needs that re-energised and trying to get that turnover and being more of a benefit for more of the community as well. is really important. But yeah, I don't want to sort of just be limited. So I think this looks really wide-ranging, which I think it needs to be. Innovative hubs and working with universities and things like this been around for a long time now. So I know, in Sydney and Melbourne, where they do have the accountants, the lawyers and everyone else, it really gets that buy-in. But trying to get those mixes is really hard, and I think trying to be as proactive to try and get that broad mix of businesses or the broad mix of benefits to new businesses is really important if we want this to work as how I think it was originally set up as well. But that's not an easy thing, and it's really timely to do this, so I support it.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Any further discussion? Councillor Lorna, would you like to close the debate?
So just thank you, everyone, for your input into that, and I agree with a lot of the comments that are said there. And if we come around and we can really get this and make this utilised even for the best of the community is really what we're after. If we can start some businesses up without people taking advantage of it, sort of thing. I think it's basically what I said. Just want to get a come back, have a look at it, and see what we can do and what's the right action to move forward. So, thank you very much. Good day.
Thank you, Councillor Lorna. Good motion. I'm going to put that to the chamber. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay. Excuse me. Moving forward, we have motions without notice. Any motions without notice? Looking for a mover of that one. Councillor Davies, any motions without notice? If you would like the motion that was circulated for the words for the December 14th incident? Yes. Thank you, Susie. We'll just put that up on the screen if you're happy to move that. Just bear with us. We have a motion without notice from Councillor Davies about the Bondi incident on the 14th. I think the wording is pretty self-explanatory there. If you're happy with that, I might ask for a seconder. You're happy to second, Councillor Hennessy? I think the wording is again self-explanatory. I will ask if there's any further comments to be made. I would love to read through it. Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Councillor Davies has moved that Council 1 extend a heartfelt condolences to the families and loved ones of those who have lost their lives, and a swift and full recovery to those injured at Bondi Beach on Sunday, 14th December 2025. Number 2, acknowledge the bravery of emergency services personnel and first responders who acted swiftly and courageously in the face of such confronting circumstances. Point 3, encourage anyone feeling distressed or in need of support to reach out to Lifeline on 13 11 14 or Beyond Blue on 1300 22 46 36 or other support services available. Number 4, does not and will not tolerate violence, racism, hatred or extremist ideologies with such views have no place in our community and stand in direct opposition to the values which underpin our organisation and our town. If everyone's happy with that wording, I'm happy to put that motion. If we're all happy to put that motion, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, members. Okay, we're going to move forward on to item 17, council member attendance and activities. Sorry about that, small technical issue. I'm sure the elves will be back and fix it after the Christmas break. We've got council member attendance. I have been now notified by Councillor Hennessy doing her homework that I have failed to do mine. But I'll just quickly run through my attendances. We had a council meeting on the 25th of November. So just from there, we've got the Villawood Street Parade, which boasted well over 10,000 attendees, I reckon. I think it's getting better and better as the time goes on. Then into December, I've attended over the time. I've actually gone to the Year 12 Gawler and Districts Awards Night as we come into the end of the year, and it was great to see the up-and-coming leaders of our future be presented with the awards and acknowledgements throughout. Well-attended events, which has been great. Also, a briefing session in regards to sites around Gawler, which we're all at. The unveiling of the Mary Ann Tucker embroidery leather. I'll probably let Councillor Hennessy touch on this a little bit more when she talks on it, but it was a great event, well attended. The one point that I will probably take a little bit of thunder is that kangaroo leather. It just really was quite surprising where that was at, but I'm sure Councillor Hennessy will be able to speak to that a bit further. We also had volunteer end of year celebrations. That's always a good night to acknowledge the volunteers. This year is the first one I've actually done it as mayor, so it was quite humbling for me to be able to acknowledge the great work and really just, again, acknowledging the fact that we'd be lost without volunteers in this community. Without them, our community wouldn't be as good as it is. So once again, sincere thank you for the work that is done. We had another briefing session on the Tuesday night. We don't need to put that in, I'm sure. We had a meeting with a group that might be talking about a Filipino fiesta potentially. So we're working through that. More details to come. Bear with us. And we're already coming into our council meeting because it's a bit shorter this week, but I will touch on the fact that we have the carols this Saturday night at Pioneer Park. So obviously everyone welcome there as we do our last sponsored event before we lead into Christmas. So that's my short list, and apologies I didn't do my homework. Councillor Hennessy, you would like to go through your well-prepared list.
Oh no, I'm earning brownie points with governance, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, it's fairly straightforward, a lot of those, the recognition. Again, because I'm always pushing tourism, having the large group of the extended Buxfeld Otto Schomburg group up at the Exchange Hotel was brilliant. We had people travelling, I think 3 lots of people coming in from interstate for that, and they'd all brought mementos of their ancestors' connection to Buxfeld and to Gawler, and we walked them down, and the staff in the cultural centre were very busy scanning or photocopying materials. So we've gained a lot more of information, and these people feel they've contributed to Gawler and will keep their connections coming. So that's been brilliant. Yeah, the Mary Ann Tucker thing was particularly good. That's a beautiful piece that's now hanging down in the reading room. If you haven't been down to have a look, please do. It's extraordinary. It came to the collection from the National Trust. The woman is connected to the Fotheringham family. It's an extraordinary piece of work for a 15-year-old. It was in very poor condition, but our staff were great, and I can't exactly remember. I think it was about $13,000 or $14,000 worth of grant funding came in from a foundation from Interstate that supports the preservation of these domestic craft type materials. And so it was a great launch. We had just about everyone from the National Trust here, including, I think, their state president, the foundation person, and a chance for everybody to view not only that particular piece of restored art, but we've now been able to fill the reading rail, and there's some really great information panels about all the art presently hanging in the reading room. So that is in effect becoming another gallery for some of our beautiful items from the collection. So I think a few years back there was some criticism that we'd locked all the collection away. We're now being able to bring them out, hang them properly and tell their stories. So I'd encourage you to have a look at those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Any other, Councillor Solomon?
I'm going to note very quickly that I've once again breached the very part of the procedures that I suggested be put in.
We won't hold
this
that
will be
against
the
you.
last time that I do so.
Sorry about that. We, again, have some gremlins in the system at the moment. Bear with us. Councillor Solomon, you're about to tell us what you've been up to.
Thank you, Mayor Shanks. I start with the volunteer end-of-year event, which was fantastic. Got the opportunity to talk to a few different volunteer groups, but predominantly with the graffiti team who I was sitting on the table with. So that was a fantastic end-of-year event, and thank you to all the volunteers that worked so hard and put in so many hours for our community across the year. I also attended the book launch of Lee Speed's 4th book here in the Civic Centre, and the adventures of Pig and Duck continue in I'm Going to the Park. So if you're looking for a kids' book to purchase for Christmas, local author Lee Speed definitely has something for you. I went represented the Mayor at Trinity College South awards ceremony, and it was stunning in true Trinity show fashion, and also it was, I make note of the fact that there was some pride taken in the some of the younger students competing in the Mayor's Christmas card competitions. They had a framed copy of it up the front of the hall. Also, yeah, just congratulations to all of those award winners from the day. While it's not necessarily an official council capacity, I'm going to use some discretion here and just mention that I also attended the funeral of Tom Hancock, who was a local business owner in this town for many years and had a business in the arcade there. And so just once again, extend my love and my thoughts to Isley and Tom's family as well. And of course, that was held at Taylor and Forgy.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Councillor Davies?
Yeah, so I've been to a few things. I went to the volunteer dinner as well, and a special mention to the musician at the volunteer dinner, a multi-talented person who's currently doing IT support for us at the council meeting, but also can sing and play the guitar. And I went to the staff recognition ceremony, and you may there may be some staff in this very room who were recognised. So there's also, I went to, in official capacity, I went to the Trinity College North Campus. Councillor Solomon went to the South Campus and I went to the North Campus awards ceremony. I guess the difference being that the North Campus had a little presentation of their campus musical, which was the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So that was quite entertaining. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Oh, the Cat in the Hat. There you go. And I also was at Trinity last week. I went along to watch the Gawler Academy of Dance, who had a big sold-out performance at the New Trinity Theatre last week. So a lot of great things going on in our town.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any further? Also, thank you, Councillor Solomon Davies, for standing in, as well as Councillor Hennessy for the LGA AGM, I believe. Oh no, sorry, that was last month. I just saw the word LGA. Thank you, everybody. Any further ads before we move on? There be none. We're moving through to confidential reports. So we have an officer's recommendation on item 18.1, looking for a mover for the officer's recommendation about the confidentiality. If I can get a mover for that, Councillor Hughes, you're happy to move that way, being the commercial in confidence and the like. Would you like to speak to it at all?
Yeah, just briefly, just the information, the disclosure of which would involve unreasonable disclosure of information concerning the personal affairs of any person living or dead, and the disclosure could reasonably or be expected to confer a commercial advantage on a person whom the council is conducting or proposing to conduct business, or to prejudice the commercial position of the council, and would on balance be contrary to the public interest. So
Thank you.
move that.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Looking for a seconder? You're happy to second that, Councillor Hennessy? Any discussion? There be none. I'm going to put that, all those in favour. That is carried unanimously. So those listening in, we are now going into confidence to discuss this matter. Being that it's our last matter, we will close the meeting after. So that is our last meeting for 2025. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, gallery members. Merry Christmas.